Have you ever wondered how we can know exactly what's going on with the first few atoms on, say, a microchip? Or what makes a medical implant, truly biocompatible with the human body? Well, the answer, a lot of the time, comes down to this really powerful technique called X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy, or XPS for short. Today, we're going to build a blueprint to really understand it. But here's the thing. With this kind of power comes a whole lot of potential for confusion. And believe me, that confusion is a serious problem. See, these XPS machines are becoming almost as common as microscopes in labs these days. And with that, there's a growing risk that people are misinterpreting the data. This paper from 2020 really nailed the issue. Researchers are looking at the results and drawing the wrong conclusions. It's kind of like being handed the keys to a Formula One car, but having no clue how to read the dashboard. You've got all this power, but you can't use it right.
So that's exactly our mission for this explainer. We are going to build an analytical blueprint so you can really master XPS. We're going to start with the absolute bare bones physics and then build our way up step by step so you can confidently decode those complex charts and graphs these instruments spit out. You ready to dive in?
Okay, so here's how we're going to build this blueprint together. First up, the absolute basics. What even is XPS? Then we'll dive into the Nobel Prize-winning physics that makes it all work. After that, we'll see why it's so focused on just the surface. We'll take a quick peek inside the machine itself, and then, and this is the big one, we'll tackle how to actually decode the data. And to wrap things up, we'll look at some really cool advanced techniques that take XPS to a whole other level.
All right, first things first. What exactly is this technique? How does it let us, read the chemical story written on a surface?
Okay, so at its core, XPS really answers two super important questions. The first one is, what is on the surface? It can literally identify almost every element in the periodic table except for hydrogen and helium. But the second question, this is where the magic happens. It answers, how is it there? So for example, it won't just tell you there's carbon on your sample. It'll tell you if that carbon is graphite, like a pencil lead, or maybe a super hard diamond-like coating, or just a greasy fingerprint someone left behind. And I mean, that's a huge difference, right? That's what makes XPS such a game changer.
So, how in the world does XPS get all that juicy information? Well, to understand that, we've got to look at the Nobel Prize-winning physics that is literally the engine for this whole process.
Yeah, the physics behind XPS is really built on the shoulders of giants. It all started way back in 1887 when Heinrich Hertz first noticed this weird phenomenon. Then, in 1905, a young Albert Einstein came along and explained it. And that work, by the way, is what eventually won him the Nobel Prize. Fast forward a few decades, and a guy named Kai Siegbahn brilliantly figured out how to turn that physics into the amazing analytical tool we have today. And yep, he won a Nobel Prize for it too. So this isn't some brand new idea. This is like a cornerstone of modern physics.
And this is the little equation that runs the entire show. Now I know, equations can look intimidating, but this one is actually super simple. The binding energy, that's the key bit of info we really want, is just the energy of the X-ray we fire in, which we know, minus the kinetic energy of the electron that flies out, which we measure. That last little term, the work function, think of it like a tiny energy toll the electron has to pay to escape the machine. And the best part is, we already know what that toll is for our specific machine. So we know one number, we measure another, and the third is a constant. It really is that straightforward.
Okay, so we use an X-ray to kick an electron out of an atom. Got it. But why does that only tell us about the surface? I mean, the X-rays go deeper than that, right? Well, the answer is all about the, let's call it, perilous journey that electron has to take to escape.
So take a look at this diagram. An X-ray zips into the material and can knock out an electron from pretty deep inside. But look at that electron on path C. It's doomed. It's just going to bounce around and get absorbed before it ever sees daylight. Now, an electron from a little closer to the surface, on path B, it might just make it out, but it's going to lose some energy bumping into things on its way. It's only the electrons from the absolute tippy-top surface, on path A, that can escape cleanly with all their original energy.
And now, if you look at how this translates into a spectrum, it all makes sense. Those A electrons, the ones that made a clean getaway, they create those sharp, tall peaks. That's our useful data. The B electrons, the ones that lost some energy, they create that rising, stepped background you see. And the C electrons, well, they never made it out, so they're nowhere to be found on our chart. And that is the fundamental reason why XPS is a surface technique. The only clean, useful information we get is from those top few layers of atoms.
Okay, so we've got the physics down. Now let's pull back the curtain and take a quick look inside the actual machine that makes all this magic happen.
So let's do a quick walkthrough. First, you've got your X-ray source, which blasts the sample. That causes electrons to get kicked out. Right away, a series of electron lenses grab those electrons and focus them into a beam. That beam is then shot into the heart of the machine, something called a hemispherical analyzer. The easiest way to think of it is like a prism, but for electrons. It sorts them out based on their energy, and then a super-sensitive detector at the other end just counts them one by one.
So you might be wondering, why does this all have to happen in an ultra-high vacuum? Well, there are two huge reasons. First, we need to give those electrons a totally clear path to the detector. Any stray air molecules would be like flying through a hailstorm. They just get knocked off course. But the second reason is even more critical. Remember how we said XPS is ridiculously surface sensitive? Well, that means any contamination is a complete disaster. And I mean, how much of a disaster? Check this out. At a pressure that's actually pretty good for most other things, a full layer of contamination can cover your entire sample in just 2 seconds. So yeah, UHV isn't a nice to have, it's an absolute must.
All right, now we're getting to the real heart of it. We've gone through the whole process, and now we have our spectrum. It's a chart full of peaks and wiggles and bumps. So how do we build our blueprint to make sense of it all and read it correctly? Okay, this is where the real detective work starts. Our main goal is to find what are called true chemical shifts. These are tiny, subtle changes in where a peak shows up, and they tell us all about the local chemical environment, like an atom's oxidation state. But, and this is a huge but, our spectrum is also cluttered with secondary features. These are other peaks and shapes that are just artifacts. They're side effects of the physics. And honestly, the #1 rookie mistake in XPS is confusing one of these secondary features for a real, meaningful chemical shift.
So let's meet the usual suspects in our lineup of tricky secondary features. You've got shake-up peaks. That's when our escaping electron gives a little energy kick to one of its neighbors on the way out. Then you have plasmons. Think of them as energy echoes that you almost always see in metals. And finally, multiplet splitting, which can take a nice, clean, simple peak and just split it into a confusing mess. Look, you don't have to be a quantum physicist to understand all the details here, but you absolutely 100% need to know that these things exist so they don't fool you.
So how do you spot these imposters? Simple. You don't guess. You use the expert's toolkit. All right, so we've covered the physics and the hardware. Now for the payoff, turning all of that raw data into actual meaningful information. It's time to learn how to read the spectral clues. Okay, so at first glance, a raw spectrum can look a little bit like a noisy mess. But there's a definite signal in there if you know what to look for. The most important things are these sharp, intense core-level peaks. Their exact position on the chart tells us precisely which elements are on our surface. You'll also see this rising stepped baseline, and that's just the background noise from all those scattered electrons we talked about earlier. And sometimes you'll see these broader humps called Auger lines. They come from a different secondary electron process, and honestly, for today, we can pretty much ignore them and just focus on those nice, sharp core-level peaks. But this is where the real magic happens. XPS doesn't just tell you what elements are there. It tells you their chemical state, using something called a chemical shift. So take this plastic, PET. Some of its carbon atoms are bonded to other carbons, but others are bonded to these really grabby oxygen atoms. Those oxygens pull electron density away from the carbon, which makes the carbon's core electrons harder to remove. And what's the result? It takes more energy, and their peak shifts to a higher binding energy. You can literally see the molecular structure of the material reflected right there in the spectrum. It's incredible. Okay, so once you've mastered the basics and you know how to read a spectrum without getting tricked, XPS has some even more advanced techniques up its sleeve. These let you ask much more sophisticated questions about your surface. Let's start with a really clever trick called angle-resolved XPS, or ARXPS. So on the left, we're looking at a normal analysis. The detector is looking straight down at the sample, so we're seeing as deep as the technique can go. But now look at the right. We've tilted the sample at a sharp angle. For an electron to reach the detector now, it has to travel a much longer distance through the material. And what does that mean? It means only the electrons from the very, very top are able to escape and be detected. And just check out the result. What we're looking at here is a silicon wafer with a super thin layer of oxide on the very top. So when we look straight down at 0 degrees, we get a big signal from the silicon underneath and just a little signal from the oxide. But then when we tilt it to 70 degrees, look at that.
the big silicon signal almost vanishes, and the signal from that tiny oxide layer gets way stronger. We've basically turned up the volume on just the outermost atomic layer. It's such an elegant way to isolate the extreme surface.
And the XPS toolkit has even more tricks. What if you want to know what's under the surface? No problem. You can use an ion gun to gently sputter away atoms, layer by layer, and analyze as you go, creating a full 3D map of your material's composition. Or what if you need to analyze a really tiny specific spot? You can focus the X-ray beam down to just a few micrometers wide. It really is an incredibly flexible technique. So there you have it. That's our analytical blueprint for XPS. We've walked through how it works, we've seen the common traps and what can go wrong, and we've laid out how to read the data like a pro. You know, whether you're talking about developing the next generation of solar cells or creating self-cleaning windows, understanding the surface is absolutely everything. So now that you have the blueprint, what mysteries in the nano world are you going to solve?